Welcome back to The Survival Historian, where we uncover the forgotten skills and hidden truths that kept our ancestors alive through history's most brutal challenges. I'm your host, and today we're stepping onto the blood-soaked fields of medieval Europe to shatter one of history's most persistent myths. Have you ever wondered how medieval knights could fight for hours in all that heavy armor without collapsing from exhaustion or discomfort? Picture this, the clash of steel against steel, men locked in brutal combat under the scorching sun or freezing rain, their lives depending on split-second reactions and sustained endurance. The secret to their survival isn't what you think. It's not about the shining steel plates that deflected sword strikes, but the ingenious hidden layers beneath that made all the difference in their surprising agility and effectiveness. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the soft secrets of medieval armor, the flexible, padded innovations that transformed a walking fortress into a lethal, mobile warrior. For generations, popular culture has fed us a lie. We've been told that medieval knights were lumbering juggernauts, slow and clumsy, requiring cranes to mount their horses and helpless as upturned turtles if knocked to the ground. This misconception has persisted through countless films and novels, painting these warriors as victims of their own defensive technology. The reality couldn't be more different. A properly armored knight could perform acrobatics, mount a horse unassisted, and fight with remarkable speed and precision for hours. But how? The answer lies not in superhuman strength, but in the brilliant engineering that remained invisible to the enemy's eye, the sophisticated layers of soft armor that transformed rigid steel into a second skin. Beneath the gleaming plate armor that caught the light on the battlefield lay a complex defensive ecosystem that, honestly, few modern observers really understand. The foundation of this system was the gambeson, also called an acrobatics, or arming doublet, a thick quilted garment constructed from multiple layers of linen or wool. Imagine for a moment standing in a medieval armorer's workshop, running your hands over this deceptively simple-looking jacket. The fabric is dense, almost rigid in places, with tight stitching creating hundreds of small pockets that trap air and fiber. This wasn't merely padding, it was, in fact, sophisticated impact engineering. Over, or sometimes under the gambeson, came the chainmail, known as a hauberk when worn as a shirt. This wasn't the stiff, decorative chain you might imagine. Authentic riveted mail moved like liquid metal, with thousands of interlocking rings sliding over one another with, surprising fluidity. Each ring was individually riveted closed, creating a fabric that could flex in any direction while still maintaining its protective integrity. When you draped this over the quilted gambeson, you created a defensive system that could absorb tremendous impact while distributing weight across the entire torso, rather than concentrating pressure on any single point. The gambeson cushioned the body from the male's weight, while the male protected vulnerable areas where plate armor had gaps or joints. Here's where medieval craftsmanship truly shined. Every suit of armor was bespoke, custom-tailored to its owner's body, with the precision of a modern athletic suit. The arming doublet featured carefully positioned attachment points, called arming points, where leather straps, called points or laces, connected the metal plates to the padded foundation. These weren't random placements. Armorers understood biomechanics intuitively, positioning attachment points at the body's natural stress-bearing structures to distribute the armor's weight along the shoulders, hips, and spine. The suspension system was honestly pretty ingenious. Rather than hanging loosely or pressing directly against the body, the plate armor was held at specific distances by these adjustable laces. This created air gaps that allowed heat to dissipate and, importantly, prevented the grinding friction that would cause chafing during violent movement. Extra padding was sewn into high-friction areas, the collarbones, the points of the shoulders, and the small of the back. A knight being armed by his squire wasn't simply dressing, he was engaging in a precise ritual of weight distribution and mobility optimization that, well, took years to perfect. Proper lacing meant the difference between fighting effectively for an entire afternoon or being unable to lift your sword arm after just 20 minutes. On the medieval battlefield, survival demanded more than just brute force. It required fluid, continuous movement. The soft armor layers enabled this in ways that honestly would surprise modern observers. Because the gambeson absorbed and distributed impact forces, a knight struck by a mace or poleaxe wouldn't be stunned into immobility by the shock traveling through rigid metal. Instead, the padding softened the blow, giving the knight a crucial chance to stay in the fight. The quilted padding dampened these vibrations, allowing him to recover instantly and counter-attack. Meanwhile, the strategic placement of chainmail gussets, small patches of mail sewn into the arming doublet at the armpits, inner elbows and groin, covered the gaps between articulated plates while allowing unrestricted joint movement. Knights trained in complex martial arts systems, performing techniques that required full range of motion, wrestling throws, ground fighting, half-swording techniques where they gripped their blade halfway up for close-quarters thrusting. This training, combined with their armor's design, meant they could move with surprising speed and agility in battle. None of this would be possible in purely rigid armor. The soft layers worked with the articulated plate joints, the careful engineering of sliding rivets, leather hinges, and overlapping lames at the knees, elbows, and shoulders, to create a defensive system that moved with the body rather than against it. This translated directly to battlefield endurance. A comfortable knight was an effective knight. He could maintain his fighting stance for hours, respond to threats from multiple angles, and when finally struck, rise from the ground without assistance to continue the fight. The true genius of medieval armor lay in understanding that protection and mobility weren't opposing goals, but complementary ones achieved through layered defense. The hardened steel plates stopped cuts and deflected thrusts. The chainmail caught points that slipped between plates and protected high-movement areas. But the quilted gambeson, that seemingly simple padded jacket, was perhaps the most crucial element of all. It transformed kinetic energy into distributed pressure, prevented debilitating injuries from blunt trauma, managed temperature and moisture, and created a comfortable interface between vulnerable flesh and unforgiving metal. These weren't primitive warriors stumbling around in crude protection. They were sophisticated combatants wearing the culmination of centuries of trial, error, and battlefield innovation, a defensive system so effective that, honestly, elements of it persist in modern body armor design. The soft layers were every bit as vital as the hard ones, working in concert to create a warrior who could survive the chaos of medieval combat. For modern survivalists, the lesson is clear. The best protection systems layer different technologies, each compensating for the other's weaknesses while maximizing overall effectiveness. Our ancestors understood this principle intimately, and, well, their lives depended on getting it right. If this look into medieval survival technology has changed how you see history's warriors, hit that like button and share this video with anyone who still thinks knights were slow and clumsy. Subscribe to The Survival Historian for more deep dives into the forgotten skills and hidden innovations that kept our ancestors alive through history's harshest conditions. What other historical myths should we bust next? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay sharp, stay informed, and remember, history's survivors have much to teach us.